couple of years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, I was looking for something different to do in ministry. And so I was helping an event here where people were getting together to pray. And then I had run into Phil and decided I would help him after I finished this other project. And so I got excited about them doing the DVD Jesus Film Outreach for Christmas here locally in Charlotte, something local. And so I was helping gather people through the networking I had done. And so from there I just got more and more involved. Well, what I do is a local focus here in the Charlotte region. There's two parts. One is helping people understand the value and the use of the Jesus Film DVDs, especially the internationals, and how to use that. And secondly, I'm involved in getting people to do face-to-face evangelism, reproducing discipleship, multiplying groups, church planting movement kind of things. So taking what works over the mission field and apply them here to go on mission, especially we're interested in the internationals and unreached peoples that are here. So do some training, and there's one particular CPM or disciple making movement that's very strong from China called Training for Trainers, T for T, that I particularly like to use. It's not the only one, but it's a very good one. So I train people how to get involved, go to where people are far from God, especially internationals, how to engage them, get to spiritual topics and so forth, and then get to sharing their story and Jesus' story and using orality methods like Discovery Bible Study in discussions and stuff like that. And then when they believe, how to disciple them to follow the commands of Christ. And these are all simple, reproducible, simple things that the mission field uses, not a Western idea. So it's hard to get people to understand it because it's not our way of attracting people to institutional churches. Getting teams of people to go out and do that here. Well, overall, it's got a large footprint. Phil's constantly traveling all over the nation and even internationally. I say he's like a bee going from ministry flower to flower to flower, pollinating, stimulating, getting things going. He works with the leadership, and he has great vision capacity, motivating capacity, and strategy ideas, and linking people together. So he's working like that primarily. He's constantly on the phone or traveling, or he's at events of conferences and so forth with these leaders. So he hadn't had a whole lot happening here. He's mostly a national or international person. The first is with the Jesus Film, of course, getting those millions of copies into partners' hands and helping them to be effective using that. And then secondly, just encouraging people to not just have hit and run evangelism, like here's a piece of media, but have a personal relationship, to get back with people, to engage them, to tell their story, Jesus' story, that kind of thing. How to get into discipleship. And so he encourages linking people to trainers, like the kind of stuff I'm doing, who know how to get people to engage people personally, face-to-face, especially in hand with the Jesus Film, because the 4 billion people that have watched the Jesus Film and the hundreds of millions of people that have come to Christ were done hand in hand with church planting movements and so forth. Well, there are a number of ways to be involved with Christ for All Peoples. So since it's nationwide, and actually other countries, people can get involved with prayer and keeping up with what we do, with the prayer letters and so forth like that. Or they could get their organization to utilize the tools, primarily the Jesus Films, the DVDs. And they can also, we need more financial support so we can give away more DVDs to a lot of refugees and international people who've come here but don't have means to get this tool out there. So there's a lot of that. And then of course people can get trained to go how to get involved with a local reproducing discipleship, church planting kind of a movement that's near them, whatever city they're in. The biggest reason why has to do with the Great Commission becoming great in my own life. That I realized I was struggling with the church overall, not being on focus enough with the main thing Jesus said the main thing is, or using God's way or the scriptural way of the methods of getting everybody being able to engage people, share Jesus, share their story, share how to bring someone to Christ in simple ways, and then getting things happening, multiplying, reproducing, versus come to our church, come to our building, which is a good thing, but versus go to where people are and get things moving. And so I'm excited to see that. I'm excited about missions. I've been involved, way back in seminary, back in the 70s and so forth. Have learned to love, missions and reaching the unreached people, and that's very important to God. That He reach all the unreached people groups and get the gospel and discipleship and churches moving in all those segments. An analogy that I like about this is like I had heard that getting the gospel in missions used to be like pouring syrup on the surface of a pancake. Like we can send William Carey to a whole nation, and that's getting the gospel. But what they've learned with Dr. Ralph Winters and so forth in the 70s, nearly 40 years ago, is that you've got to reach all the people groups within a nation. And so it's like you've got to get the syrup to go into each waffle square, and so you got to have a reproducing person in each of those squares that you can support. And so a lot of people can be, I just made up the term, a waffle square partner. Like you've got to be partners with particular people who are reproducing and getting the gospel going in their people group, especially ones that have come here that are very hard to reach from foreign places. Something that's very important to understand is the technical term is diaspora missions, which means scattered. People are scattered from their own country. People have come from Afghanistan, or the most difficult countries to reach, have come here. They're scattered from their home place. And so that's a super opportunity for us to reach them here, to disciple them, and they reach back to their own country. And that's a whole new realm. It used to be missions meant going from the West to the rest of the world, but now it's anywhere to anywhere. And so all these people groups have come into our zip codes here in Mecklenburg County or whatever county you live in, and they're accessible and they're partially westernized. You can talk. They feel freer to talk, especially in politically hostile countries. And so there's a wide open opportunity. God is pouring them in here. Will the church, rise to the challenge?
If you know of a ministry that we need to know about, please give us a call, 888-641-8606, or take a look at our website, revelationstv.org.